Senate Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Committee meeting to order. The first order of business, we'll recognize Vice Chairman Ladner for a motion.
Yes. Motion to the organized committee moved to elect Senator Brumfield as secretary of the committee.
All right, you've heard the motion. Nominations therefore closed. All in favor? Opposed? Congratulations. For the next motion,
Move to adopt a quorum of 6 members, majority of the committee, sufficient quorum to proceed with the business.
you've heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. For the third motion,
Adopt the rules of the Senate as the committee rules of procedure with exception that a motion to reconsider may be disposed of the same day it is entered.
all right, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion carries as well. So with the organizational part taken care of, we're going to move right into the agenda. And the first bill that we're going to take up, we're going to kind of skip around just a little bit. Going to recognize Senator Suber to explain Senate Bill 2651. And that is a committee substitute that you all should have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a statute that basically states that you're not allowed to go on the property to hunt, fish, or shoot on lands of another. We're going to kind of clarify this language, add some more definition to it. Section 1 stating it's just unlawful to not only enter the lands of another without the permission of, without being accompanied by the landowner to hunt, fish, or shoot. And then what we did, section number 2, is we tied this to the trespassing statute. So that's the same. Section 3 creates a subsequent, second or subsequent violation. If your license or, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong section here. A second violation, you can lose your hunting license or privileges for a period of 1 year. And then you can have it reinstated after the year. And then in part 4, like if you have any deer, fish, or any animal that you got while you were. All right. In section 4, if you have any of the fish, anything that you got while you're trespassing on the property, the law enforcement officer can seize that property. And then in part 5 is an additional penalty per each animal, bird, fish, or anything that you're possessing at the time. And this money will go to the department with the legislature to appropriate any funds that they receive.
So you've heard a basic explanation of the bill. Is there any discussion from the committee members? If, Senator Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This does on the violation of trespassing. It takes away one time, you don't have no fine. And then the second time, if it's a notified, we doing away with all of it and just making it true trespass.
Right, make it true trespassing, because the way the law currently is now, you have to basically be warned if you're on somebody else's property. So now if you're on there, you can be charged with trespassing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion from the committee? We have some people here with the department. Would anybody from the department like to weigh in on this, or have y'all?
And I have looked at the House bill, and I think the first part is almost identical, but the The second part, the fines are a lot more. Like I said, I just mirrored the trespassing statute as it is currently. This one, like I said, increases the fines, and and I don't have a preference either way, but
So basically, we have two bills, one in each side of each chamber, and basically the only difference would be the fines. Is that what I'm understanding? Well, I think we've got pretty good bills to discuss, move forward on the process. So we'll definitely look at that as the process goes along, but Senator Younger?
So right now, if you're poaching on somebody and their vehicle's parked on your place and they're going in right by a sign that says no trespassing or posted, nothing happens to them, they just get a warning?
yes, sir.
Or is it up to the game warden to interpret what he wants to do?
Probably. But the way the statute reads, it says after have been warned by someone. So you can make the argument that, well, I didn't know, which that's not an excuse, but way the current law reads, it says you have to be warned.
Any more discussion on the bill? For a motion?
Titles, fish, committee sub.
Motion is title sufficient, do pass, committee sub, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? That bill carries. We will now move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2652, and that one is also Senator Suber, and I'm skipping around a little bit because I'm trying to get the Finance Committee to where they can go as quickly as possible. So Senator Suber, you're recognized for Senate Bill 2662.
2662.
2652, excuse me, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill creates a turkey stamp. The first section is basically just definitions. But anyone over 16 would have to buy a turkey stamp, kind of like duck stamps. It's a $10 fee for in-state. The code section for out-of-state references in here states that the non-resident hunting license should not be less than $60. So that would be set by the commission. There has been some discussion actually setting an out-of-state fee, but in this bill, we don't have, I think the House bill might have had an actual fee in it. This one references the fee to allow the commission to set the price on turkey stamp. This money is to be used for basically not for pay raises or anything. This is supposed to be for like turkey habitat, basically research for turkeys. And I'll be glad to answer any kind of questions.
Any discussion amongst the committee? Senator England.
Senator Suber, do you know if any other states are utilizing a turkey stamp?
I do know a few other states. I do not have a list. I can't get you a list, but I know there has been other states that have done this.
Get that answer from the department. If you'd like for them to answer that, I'm sure they would be happy to.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that'd be fine. Do we know about, so of those dozen or more states, do any of them border Mississippi? Okay, thank you.
And Senator Brumfield asked a question. That's a very good question. This isn't a stamp per turkey. This is just a stamp for the season. You'd have to buy the $10 stamp a residence would for the year. The limit on turkeys would still be the same.
The way that I understand this would mirror exactly as the state duck stamp does. It would be a
That's correct.
one-time purchase. That is for you to be able to access, to be able to do actually turkey hunt in the state of Mississippi. It's not a per animal tag, so.
Right, that's correct.
Senator Younger?
So is this the same cost for somebody from Alabama?
Oh, for the out-of-state, it's gonna be set by the department. And it references that in section 3. It says non-resident wild turkey hunters as provided in section 49.7.8. And in that section, it basically sets the fee of all non-resident hunting license shall not be less than $60. So the department would set something over $60. And I've got that code section if anyone wants to look at it.
Yes, sir. Arkansas and Louisiana do have the stamp, but not the state of Tennessee. Okay. Yes, sir.
Are we in line with what they charge us if we go there? So what do they cost us if we go there? What are we gonna charge them when they come here?
I think that'd be the question for the department or the commission to figure out.
The way I understand, the bill does not set forth those,
Basically, we
those
just,
numbers, but if it's the will of the committee, I'm not opposed to setting limits. Just setting the fees.
I think it ought to be just the same as theirs, you know, reciprocate.
Look, I tell you what we can do. We can, if
An
you
amendment.
could, Mr. Walsh, if we could get you to compile a list of the states that are adjoining to us, and then the states that have those, and let us see what their resident, what their non-resident fees are, and that would give us a good indicator of where we should be and where we need to be. I would appreciate that. Senator Barnett?
You took care of. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but that was what I was going to ask or suggest in regards to amendment, is that we take the numbers that the gentleman from Wildlife and Fisheries gave us and come up with an average cost, and then we could let that average cost of what those neighboring states that's bordering us be the cost that we would charge for out-of-state fees. So I think you said it was 224, two something, and whatever the average is of those three numbers. Would you be okay, Senator Suber, with that being accepting that amendment as part of the?
yes, sir, I don't have any problem with setting a fee.
Why don't we'll get the numbers from the department. We will discuss that amongst ourselves. I'll discuss that with each of you. And I'll have the numbers configured for you, and we'll do a floor amendment. Does that sound, if that's amenable to?
That's good. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Seymour.
Two questions, Mr. Chairman. The first is, if you've got a lifetime sportsman's license, or what are these guys gonna do? Is it gonna affect them in any way?
Well, the way I would understand it, it would be the exact same way that the duck stamp works. And the people with the lifetime license still have to purchase their electronic duck stamp. So it would be the same situation with the turkey stamp.
And my second question is, this license fee increase, where is the money going? What is the money going to be used for?
The money's going for like turkey research, just to benefit the turkeys. This isn't, from my understanding, not to feed any kind of raises or anything other than to do with turkey habitat. And it's actually, if you'll look on line 51, section 7, it says all revenue from the proceeds of the stamp. Just paying for the cost of the stamp, restoring, enhancing, protecting turkey populations, funding turkey research, increasing access to publicly available turkey hunting opportunities. That gives you kind of a list of the only thing that the money can be used for from the proceeds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Bryan. Electronic duck stamp.
But we do have electronic ducks.
Not quite. Any further discussion or motion?
Title sufficient, do pass.
Motion is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor? Opposed? That bill carries. The next bill we'll go to would be Senate Bill 2659, and I'm going to recognize Senator Bryan to explain.
If I had known I was going to be next, I wouldn't have made the crack about the electronic duck. I would like to say, first of all, Mr. Chairman, I am very happy with the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks, Executive Director, everybody that works there. This has nothing to do with any complaint that I have about the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks. I've got a list, but they ain't on it. But I want to make it clear that what this bill would do is something that I think I've at least mentioned to the chair off and on for a while, and finally just decided to put into a piece of legislation. It's my thought that we just need to have someone run the state parks, sort of like one would run the national parks or something. There, in many respects, it's a business. It's a business whose goal is to serve the public. But as far as advertising and promoting and developing, knowing what sort of buildings to build, what sort of buildings would pay for themselves, what sort of buildings would need some sort of subsidy, all of those things. What do you do at the parks? What sort of activities do you have? And so I think we would do better with a group that had only as its business the running of the parks, that we hire an executive director who's got experience in that area and just let him or her have a great deal of flexibility. So I know that over the years, I've complained at length about this lottery corporation. And I have finally decided if you can't beat them, join them. And so now what this bill does is it sets up a Mississippi Parks Corporation, which in many respects is like the lottery corporation, except that the members, the employees would still be state employees in the sense that they would get state retirement, they would get state insurance, and so they would still be in the pool for all of those things, but they would not be subject to the personnel board. I just think that this is an entity or something the state does that would be better done with someone with more flexibility to run it. So that's the thrust of the bill.
Any discussion on the bill? Senator Sober.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this creating an entirely new agency or is this new group going to be still under the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries?
It would be a separate agency, just like the Mississippi Lottery Commission is an agency all to itself. The State Parks Corporation would be an agency all to itself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I would assume that the employees and everybody who's currently working in this area would move over to the new agency.
Any other discussion on the bill?
Mr. Chairman, just one.
Senator Seymour?
Why are we calling it a corporation?
Because the lottery agency was called a corporation. And it seemed to me the best way to draft this bill was just to take the same structure that the lottery corporation had, at least for purposes of getting started. And if there are twists and turns, fine. But I think that the idea was just to say this is an entity that operates. It, just like the lottery corporation is still actually an agency of the state. This would still be an agency of the state. It would just have a great deal of flexibility in wouldn't have to follow the rules of the personnel board and the bid laws and all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Would like to give our friends with the Department of Wildlife, Fish and Parks an opportunity to respond if they so choose. I don't know if they have any. Okay. Okay. With no, Senator McClendon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Has anybody been in discussion with Director Posey on this?
I've not talked to him about it. I think the bill has been introduced for some time, but I've not had a direct conversation with him.
I've not had anybody come to me specifically opposing or in favor of this bill either way. This is mainly a discussion piece. Over the last 4 years, this committee set out to make parks a priority, and we've shown that over the last few years. And we have done well with the department over the last few years. I hope to continue parks to move forward in the next few years. Senator Bryan came to me with this proposal, and I thought that it merited discussion at the least. The position of the chairman is that the committee is allowed to work and able to work, and I want you all to work, discuss, ask questions and do as y'all feel that you need. So with that, the decision lies to the committee.
Do we have an approximate number of new employees that would be hired, or would we take employees from Wildlife and Fisheries away? Do you have any kind of estimate on employees?
My sense is that the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks has a division which is for the parks. And my thought would be that whoever is currently there would just shift over to being employees of the corporation. And it's whether there would be more or fewer employees in the future and how much they would be paid, that would be a matter determined by the corporation. But I think just the common sense of it is initially, whatever's there that's being used to operate the parks is what one would start with. What the same people who are there now under this proposition would have more flexibility and would really have a different mission, which is to just operate the parks in the most efficient manner, to do the most good for the most people without having to go through all the rigmarole of the procedure of being a state agency.
Senator Younger?
So this will be inviting private businessmen to come in and help us with it. In other words.
Well, the board, when it is set up, would make those decisions. And I don't know what sort of decisions the board would make because I'm clearly not an expert in this area. But I hope you would have people appointed to the board who would be knowledgeable and would, as I say, the starting point would be whoever's there now, and they would chart the future for the parks. They have to get their money, still has to be appropriated by the legislature. And the money becomes state funds when it's paid to them. They have to have an appropriation in order to have spending authority to spend their funds. But it would just, it would relieve them from a lot of state regulations.
I think it's a great idea.
I think we've got a wonderful discussion piece to move forward with. We've been discussing this over the last few years, as I said, and I think we're going to continue to discuss this, and if we're going to get better, Senator Barnett. Motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next bill that we're going to take up will be Senate Bill 2662. Senator Super.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman. As we all know, we have a serious hog problem in our state. I know I've had many constituents approach me about, the hog problem. We have lots of people who been trying to trap hogs, and they want to use the use of a drone or an unmanned vehicle. Change to this law. This just allows individuals to use drones to hunt, trap, or actually take the hogs. But we just want to make sure that we're not make sure we're in compliance with any federal laws, because, using drones, you do have to have some other kind of license. But all this bill does is just allow individuals to use a drone for purpose of hunting, trapping, or taking a hog. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion? Senator England.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Super, this just applies to wild hogs. We're not opening up drone hunting to any other wildlife, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Senator Seymour.
Have you addressed any of the issues with the FAA?
I did try to reach out to the FAA, and I've not gotten a response back yet. But I do know their laws are pretty clear. I did talk to Farm Bureau, and I think they have a drone committee that they are, I have lots, because I have another bill drone bill that applies to.
They don't care about whose mistake it is. When they come out, if you've attached a firearm to a drone and it's not permitted the specific way, you're going to jail.
Right. Well, that's why we put in the language to the extent permitted by federal law. But I mean, I would love to talk with the FAA about this bill, about the drones. I do know, people who have flown drones, but you do have to have a special kind of license to actually, are supposed to actually fly a drone. So we want to make sure they're in compliance if they actually use a drone.
Any other discussion? Motion is title sufficient to pass. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That bill carries. And with that, we have to get to a finance committee meeting. Our attorney does. But with that being said, we're not going to take a motion for a rise and report. We are going to recess, and we're looking for the time right now, or we're looking for the room. We know it'll be 3 o'clock, and okay, so we'll do 3 o'clock here in room 409. Right. How many do we have in other meetings? 3. Look, I tell you what, we're going to get out of finance. We're going to go to finance, and then we'll come right back.